Thank you very much. Marshall, on to you.
Morning, Michael. Thank you, Francisca and Paul. Boy, do we have a lot of fun stuff to talk about, Michael. Knowing that you own, at my last count, 6 motor racing teams. Have I forgotten any yet? We've got you in IndyCar, Indy Lights, IMSA with your LMP3 program, Formula E, Australian Supercars, and Extreme E. We could have forgotten one. I just want to make sure I got them all. Am I correct?
Super Copa.
See, yeah. I knew it. Yeah. I knew I was going to forget one. One that you and Michel Jourdain are involved in. Before we get to the more serious and interesting stuff about team ownership and whatnot, Paul picked up on something where I wanted to start 30 years ago, 1991, kart IndyCar season. A guy who looks a lot like you kicked a lot of behind. It's been a busy year for you, obviously, trying to win championships and do a lot of big things. But let's step back and talk about Michael Andretti, the driver. Is it crazy to think, Michael, it's been 30 years since you mopped the floor with everybody? And is it also crazy to think you have fans, even drivers, who maybe know you more as a team owner and don't know that you once destroyed the IndyCar field?
Does that say I'm getting really old? Feeling it for sure. Yeah, it's crazy, you know, how things have gone. And yeah, that was an amazing year for me. Obviously, we won a lot of races, probably could have won another 3, 4, 5 races that year. So it was one of those dream years, you know, and the best part of the year was the way it ended up. You know, the weekend at Laguna Seca probably goes down as my probably greatest achievements as a driver, you know, winning the race, winning the Marlboro Challenge at that time, starting on pole, and then having Dad on the podium there to share that great moment with me. So yeah, that was an amazing year.
I think your dad also did some laps on a current 1991 MotoGP bike as well. So
with his racing suit on and no leathers.
Oh yeah, complete. And he wasn't waiting around either. Full attack mode. That was a beautiful thing to see. Well, let's dive in, Michael. So having spoken about the 7 teams that you have right now, I want to get to IndyCar and IMSA and all kinds of good stuff. Formula One. And I don't want to go too deep into this, but I know that this is something that has interested you. Obviously, you and I spoke months ago, did a story about your interest in Formula One. We know that this latest attempt did not work out the way that you wanted, but why don't you tell folks about why you have an interest in Formula One? Because we got that question a lot. Gosh, isn't he busy enough as it is? Why the biggest racing series in the world?
I think you just said it. It's the biggest racing series in the world, right? And I think it could just do wonders for our brand, you know, internationally. Obviously, we are international with Formula E and Extreme E, but you know, to do Formula One is the ultimate, and so I've always had interest in that, and you know, it was really disappointing that deal didn't come together. We were literally probably 48 hours away from getting the deal done at that time that we thought. So. Yeah, I mean, I still very much would like to do it. You know, opportunities are becoming less and less. No teams are really for sale right now. So, you know, we have to, you know, see what happens in the future, but there's still interest. You know, I love Formula One. It's the ultimate, you know, racing experience. And like I said, for our brand, it would be just huge. You know, it just takes us to the highest level you can be in.
Speaking of levels, the amount of time that you invested and your partners invested, everyone who wanted to make Formula One happen, that had to be something that seemed like it was all consuming. Is that at all accurate? When did you really dive into this, Michael, and say, okay, we might have an opportunity? When did the clock start on that? Because getting you on the phone at least became increasingly difficult. I just assumed you were working 23 hours a day.
Yeah, it was pretty busy. I'd say around, I want to say around May is when it started to heat up pretty big. And, you know, so then it got crazy, you know, in August and September. It was flat out. And that time we thought we had a deal and we were just trying to get it, you know, all buttoned up. And unfortunately there was things thrown at us right the end that we couldn't do it.
Last thing or two on Formula One, Michael. So you are not someone I've known to give up easily on anything. I mean, your personality was perfectly demonstrated in your driving career. If it was in front of you, you're going to attack it until you owned it and went by. Is that approach something that still applies to Formula One? Because this didn't work out this last time, you're done and going away? Or is this another Andretti syndrome of no, you're chasing this continually?
There's always a plan B and C. So, we're definitely still attacking it. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm not going to give up on it. There could be opportunities that come down the road that aren't here right now. And, we're just going to keep looking for those opportunities.
Is there anything you took from this attempt, Michael, where you say, hey, I learned a lot that not only should hopefully help me when I try and acquire or start my next F1 program, but maybe within your 29 other racing teams or this big business empire? Are there any takeaways where you go, okay, I'll tweak this, I learned that a little bit, something?
Yeah, I mean, I think, there are some things you definitely learn. You're always learning. But, would I say that could I say that we could have done things differently? Probably not too much. I think we did a pretty good job on getting to the point that we were at. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's things I learned. But would I do much different from what we did there? Probably not.
So dollars and cents, Formula One fans, racing fans in general, read that an F1 team can be worth a lot of zeros, a lot of zeros. Mm-hmm. Coming back to IndyCar, I know in recent years, maybe more since Roger Penske took ownership of the Speedway in the NTT IndyCar series, I've heard more team owners talk about, I don't know if my IndyCar team is going to be valued at $1 billion like one of the Formula One teams could be, but we would like to see greater value. Our assets that we invest in become something that is more of a commodity. If you decide to sell an entry or the entire team one day, you'd like that to be an established value. Can you talk about that, Michael? How we might get there? Back in the kart days, we had franchises. There were many fans, many detractors of it. How do you as a businessman push Roger and say, how do we make an Andretti Autosport or any other team more of a commodity where we say there's real dollars attached to that? What would be your plan for that, Michael?
Well, we need to figure out a way to do it for sure, because IndyCar is probably one of them only series, big time racing that there's really no value in what we own. We have no franchise and so you really don't have much. It's a little too easy to be able to come in and do an IndyCar race. It's just, I think there needs to be more value put on that, especially now that we have a lot more interest. I think now is a time to set up some sort of franchise system. But then the biggest problem is, how do you fund the franchise system? Obviously, we still don't have the big contracts, TV contracts like a lot of other series do. And that's where most of the revenue comes from. So I think they're still building on that. It probably won't be till the next contract, hopefully if our ratings continue to do what they're doing, that maybe there will be an opportunity for the series to, create more revenue from the TV. But yeah, he's got to figure out a way. I think, for us, IndyCar, for me, from a business standpoint, IndyCar racing is probably not the smartest thing for me to do. It all comes from the heart because I love it. I think it's the best racing in the world. But we got to figure out some way to get value, excuse me, because all the other series that I'm invested in, there's value. There's a lot of value in owning a franchise in Formula E. There's a lot of value of owning a franchise in Extreme E. And, so we have to figure out a way to create value for us, for sure.
You have been one of the most active IndyCar team owners in terms of bringing new partners in, co-entry related, for example. I, at would not even attempt to try and accurately call out what the number 29 Honda Andretti, Herta, Curb Agajanian, Marco Andretti, ABC, and like, I say that jokingly, but it is something real and powerful, right? Between your technical alliance with Meyer Shank Racing to young George Steinbrenner, who's really making a name, you have led the way in introducing new team owners, building relationships on co-entries within your IndyCar empire, and it is an empire. Speak to us about that, Michael, because in many cases, I think of a Mike Harding, for example. These are folks who probably would not be on the grid ever or for very long without some sort of link-up business relationship with you. We see a few other team owners doing it, but not a ton. You really made this a core part of what you do. How did this come to be? And we'll talk a little bit more about how it's developed, but how did this come together?
I think each deal was its own deal. I don't think any of it was planned. Like the deal with Brian, for instance, he was, first of all, he's a really good friend. So, when I saw he was in trouble, what he did have was his leader circle. And at that time, we had 3 leader circles. So there was a way to bring him in and do a partnership with him, which has been fantastic because he's just a great guy to have part of your team. He's a very smart person. He brings a lot to the party. That was one deal that just organically happened. The Harding thing was a little different. We were looking to try to set up like a B team to bring up, young talented drivers, which is, we did do that for a little bit. Unfortunately, the funding went away, but I thought the idea of it was a pretty cool idea, and it worked really well. We got 2 really talented drivers out of it, for the series. We got Colton and then obviously Pato. So, it did what it was supposed to do, but unfortunately we couldn't keep it going. And then we developed a great relationship with Michael Shank. We did first the Indy only deal with Stefan Wilson. And then that just, turned into this deal to help Shank become full-time owner in the series, which we felt was good for the series. And it was good for us to have an alliance with the team. And he's a great partner. He's a guy that we know we can trust. And it's been really good. We did a 2-year deal, and we just, added another 2 years to it. So it's something that's really working for both of us.
Looking at how the co-entries have seemingly benefited both sides, Michael, obviously you wouldn't continue to engage in them if they weren't beneficial to you and your business. Is there a limit? Is there I want to have a co-entry with each car if possible? Is there a sense of purity where, nope, I want to keep at least one all Andretti Autosport? Does any of that matter? Or if more people kept knocking on your door, could you see co-entries on everything? And also want to call back to the B team. Do you think you might get to a point where reestablishing a B team could be of value? Because I assume you want to own half the grid, if not more.
Yeah. There's always could be an opportunity for a B team maybe down the road. We don't have any current plans with it, but I'm always open to listening to ideas, as for, adding more people. I mean, some of our sponsors like, having it just Andretti and not having, other partners in it. So, it depends on that. But I think where we are right now is in a pretty good place. We have a great relationship with the Steinbrenners. George has become part of the family, really. And we just really enjoy having them part of the program and bringing on Devlin, through them is really good for our team. So, we're excited about that program.
I'm going to come back to the IndyCar side in a little bit, Michael. Wanted to talk business with you, knowing that, again, with the 7 teams that you currently own and run, you're in a very unique place in the sport. The negatives is something that you have managed, you and your expansive leadership team have managed, I would say, incredibly well, but I'd love to talk about how. you had a big, and I know I won't say lucrative, but a powerful relationship with Volkswagen and the Global Rallycross series. That series, no fault of your own or any team owner, unfortunately went away. Volkswagen pulled out. I know that that was a hit for you to weather. We've had a recent change in your factory relationship with BMW. They've chosen to conclude their full factory Formula E program with a large entity to run like your own. Can you tell folks, let's say starting with Volkswagen, when do you get news about something like that? And when do you call your chief financial officer, your chief operating officer, your president and say, ooh, we might have to tighten our belts a little bit? How does a team like your own, a big one, deal with withdrawal of a big manufacturer like Volkswagen and not take a worrying step backwards?
Well, one thing we try to do in our contracts, we try to put it out at least a year and a half out, that they give us a warning that they'll be pulling out. So it gives us time to find a replacement or whatever, And I think, we were very fortunate, say with our Formula E, we still have a great relationship with BMW. But, obviously the funding was a problem, and we're so lucky to have Avalanche join us as a team in the team. I think they're going to be an awesome sponsor. They're an awesome partner. And I think they're perfect for Formula E with their product, what they're doing. So
what do they do, Michael, by the way? And I also saw this morning Genesis confirmed with your Formula E program too. So not so much asking for a general sales pitch, but truly on my to-do list, one is, hey, idiot, go find out what Avalanche is, because they're a part of Michael's Formula E team.
Well, they're in the cryptocurrency business. They create NFTs. They also have tokens that you can buy. So there's going to be some really cool thing come along that we're going to do with them that will actually allow the public to be even more involved with our team in the future. So it's going to be pretty cool. We're going to be able to do with them. So they got some great ideas, and I think they're very innovative in their ideas, and I think it's going to just be good, not only for us as a team, but I think racing as well. The series of Formula E, and maybe they'll even look at branching out into other parts of our business. So it's good.
If I ever wake up saying, man, I need an Oliver Askew NFT, you've solved my problem, Michael.
There you
go. Let's stay with BMW and Formula E. I find this to be a bit fascinating. And you and I have spoken about this a little bit previously, and that is the relationship of going from being a long-standing partner, success achieved, and that partner decides they've got what they need out of the series, at least in terms of a full factory effort, evolving into a different relationship where powertrain usage and working with the same technical folks you've been accustomed to, that's not so much of a migration we see much of. You tell folks about how that works, because I believe now you're having to find a bigger slice of the budgetary puzzle, take on a lot more of your own from a technical standpoint. Tell folks about this transition, Michael, because it's a big one.
Yeah, it's a big one. But it's actually been fun. It's been good. Because we still have a good relationship with them. We're when it comes to the running of the team and things like that, it's pretty much seamless. It's going to be very close to, what we had last year. But I think for us, it's actually some better in some ways, because we have a little bit more freedom to do some things like the drivers, for instance. I had in the drivers, whereas with BMW it was 100% they're up to them. So I sort of like the position we're in. We have a great partner with Avalanche that has allowed us to do what we need to do, and now we actually have more say within the team than we had before.
Why don't we talk about COVID a bit, Michael? Something fun to start off a Monday morning, but another topic we've discussed, maybe more in person or on pit lane, but COVID-19 hit every major racing team, minor racing team in massive ways. You and other team owners in IndyCar and the other series you're in had to deal with some stuff in 2020, which is fairly unique. Hey, we've paid for X amount of races, and due to unforeseen circumstances, there are going to be fewer races. Can you tell folks with a year-ish worth of context looking back, how your team had to scramble to meet the varying needs of your sponsors. It's not like everyone said the same thing. We want a discount, a rebate, or otherwise. They might love you, but they're also there for business reasons too. The year worth of context, Michael, how did you weather that? How did you survive that? And have you gotten out of it completely? Have you survived it intact?
Yeah, I think we're out of it, which is great. We have great partners. Some were more cooperative than others. Some we were able to do some other things. Instead of having to give money back, we were able to give them more signage or whatever, and they were happy with that. And then there was others that, the CFOs got involved and they wanted, some money back. So, we were able to work through it. And, in the end, we came out all right. I think, obviously there was expenses that were saved, not running as many races and things like that. So we were able to, because of that, be able to pay back some of the money that, the sponsors wanted. And also the PPP helped a lot. I mean, without that, we may have gone under. So that was a big deal. So it was a tough time there for a little bit, but we got through it, and I think we come out stronger on the other end.
Let's talk about safeguarding, right? We continue, unfortunately, to read about here's a new variant, here's COVID's not behind us yet. Of course, we hope that nothing comes back the way that it did in 2020, but have you and your leadership team implemented any structural changes, contractual changes with whomever in case next season in whatever series is reduced in some way? If you had to go through COVID again, do you feel like you've applied the lessons of 2020 to minimize the financial disruption at least, or the operational disruption?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of our contracts and the newer ones are a little bit, there's some wordage in there to help cover that, things like that. But, do we have any real plans if something happens again? No, but we have experience, and obviously that experience hopefully will help.
Stay in the business realm here just because it's fun learning or hearing about the things that you do and have been doing that have been unique or done at a very high level. One of the big stories about Andretti Autosport, especially soon after you took full ownership, was B2B. When I hear business to business relationships in relation, at least to IndyCar, Michael, your team comes to mind first. One of your former team members, John Lopes, used to listen to him talk about this all the time. Going into 2022, what would you say, I don't know if it's a percentage wise or just overarching aspect in IndyCar, IMSA, and all the other series, how much of what you do to support your racing programs has evolved towards B2B versus a traditional marketing advertising? We're writing a check to have our name on the car and activate. How far has B2B gone for you and your organization?
B2B is very, very important. It's amazing the synergies you can find between companies when you put them. We have so many that are underneath our tent on a race weekend, and there's so many synergies with some of them that, we try to connect them. We're always looking at, well, you guys do this and you guys do that. This might work if you guys do this, and I can't tell you how many times it worked out for everybody where it was a win-win-win. And, those are the deals we're always looking for. And what percentages, I'd say it's definitely more than 50-50 probably, what we do with the business and why companies want to be associated with us is because of, our whole environment. And, we have over 100 different sponsors and it's a great environment for a lot of companies, especially new ones that are trying to get business to come in, because, we can connect them with the right people within each of the companies, which normally they might not be able to. I think a good example, one of our old examples was 7-Eleven. DHL was trying to get the morning delivery on the fresh foods, and they had been trying for years to get to the right people within 7-Eleven, and we were able to connect it. And now, to this day, they still do the delivery, and it turned into a few $100 million worth of business. So, yeah, it's there's definitely a lot of those stories that come out from underneath our tent.
Michael Fuchs's Instagram account and the latest, where did you find that color and how much did that thing cost? Car photos or videos is always a reminder of how such things can work properly. Thinking about this, Michael, talking about the B2B side, but also the traditional sponsorship side, we had a big thing that we'll talk about more. Hey, Romain Grosjean's coming our way. Wow, that's going to help our IndyCar team, the competitiveness and such. There's also, if you could tell folks a little bit about this, equal importance on the team leadership side, talking about marketing, talking about business development. They might not have hero cards, they might not sit at autograph sessions in front of racing fans, but you want to talk about a powerful team you're always looking to improve and a staff you want to grow. Tell folks about that side. We never see them, but as you mentioned, that those 100 companies across your various racing teams, that's kind of your special team in the background, making all this stuff work. How important are they? How constantly are you looking through resumes or trying to find the next person who can help land your next partner?
Very, very, very important. You know, they're the backbone. You know, we have a great people within our organization, and you know, you talk about the success, it's the people that make it successful. And you know, we've been lucky enough to attract a lot of great people. You know, I mean, you're talking about, you know, the business to business side and the head of partnerships and stuff. You know, it starts with Doug Bresnahan, who's been with us for many years. He does a great job within that department, you know. And you know, we added some new people. We added Ashley Huffman, who we feel has really brought a lot to that side of the table as well. And, you know, and then we have, you know, a bunch of other people that back them up. And it's, we have, our success is not by accidents, because we have great people, and that's what's making it happen.
I also think I happened upon something brand new for your design team, and that is your business development people need hero cards. We're going to get some of those going for next season, Michael.
All right.
Why don't we talk about IndyCar? We'll get on to IMSA and some of the other series. We've seen a lot of numbers that suggest IndyCar is on the rise again. Fans ask, tend to be newer fans ask, hey, we hear that kart used to be this raging success. Are we back to that point? I say, no, it was a very special time, but at least we know what to aspire towards, right? We see the TV numbers are improving. Next year seems like we're going to be on big network NBC almost all the time. Car counts are increasing, et cetera, et cetera. What are the things you have in the back of your head, or what are the things you're calling Roger Penske about at 10 o'clock at night saying, Roger, we're doing great here, but here are a couple other things we need to fast track or improve upon? What's Michael's short list on the next steps for IndyCar to grow? How do we get even closer to the golden era of the CART IndyCar series?
Well, obviously, I think, you know, one of the things that the series is trying very hard to get, and I'm hoping that it can happen, because I think it's important for the series to get another manufacturer. I think that could help a lot. I think there's a lot of pressure right now on Honda and Chevy to supply more teams than what they really can do, and so I think that's something for longevity for the series. I think is going to be important to get a third one in here in the next couple of years. You know, obviously TV we have to continue to work on and keep improving. I think the show we have to always look at, you know, trying to make sure we don't ruin the show. I think we have to be careful with these new rules that are coming out, you know, with, you know, there's some exciting things that are happening, but then you have to be careful that the negatives aren't gonna screw it up, you know, like the new car, well, the car that we're adding, you know, our current car, we're just adding weight, and we're adding horsepower, and I think the tire is getting to a limit where it's tough for it to handle it, and so there's things like that I think are concerns that we have to stay on top of, and I know Jay is. You know, I think Jay's done a tremendous job. You know, I think the other thing is we have to continue to control the costs. You know, I think there still could be some areas that we can get it down yet. You know, I think that's still important.
What areas, Michael? What jumps out on further cost cuts?
Oh, I don't know. I think parts and things like that. I think, there's things that, I wish we could build, parts way cheaper if we could do it ourselves. And, there's things like that, say a wishbone, you could probably build it for $50 and we're spending $500 on it type thing. There's stuff like that I think we still need to continue to work on.
Let's talk about IMSA. So LMP3, a great starting point in prototypes in the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. I never think of you and your team, though, in starting point. I think of you, if whatever the fastest prototype is, that's where you come from. As a driver, obviously, also your team having been there, big part of the American Le Mans Series golden era. I know you and I have spoken about Andretti Autosport's desire to find a manufacturer partner to come in with LMDH in 2023. Let's talk about that. I know most manufacturers have aligned with a factory team or factory affiliated teams. Are there still some out there that you're talking with? Maybe not for 23, who knows, maybe 2024 and beyond. Is Andretti Autosport LMDH still something you're actively pursuing?
100%. Yeah, we're, there's at least two manufacturers still that haven't committed to teams and we're working with, and yeah, we definitely want to do it. Obviously it wouldn't be a 23 program, it would be a 24 program. But we are very, very interested in it, and I'm hoping, that we can put something together here soon.
Looking at your LMP3 program, that's been a fun family related thing as well. Son Marco's also been involved in that, extends beyond Marco. Can you tell folks about this, Michael? Because it does seem like there is a tradition that's being continued. This is also a competitive race team that has gone out and done the business in LMP3 too. Where does this live with you? Because it seems like there's some dreams being realized, but you're also not just there to let extended family members go out and have fun.
Yeah, it's a funny program. It's actually Jared Andretti's program, who is John's son, and he drives in it, but he also basically runs it as well. So he's very busy on it, and I'm there to support him. I promised John I would support Jared and whatever he was going to do, and for us also, it's been good for us to learn, for when we do get into the series in a bigger way, if we get in with the manufacturer. So it's been good learning experience from that standpoint. But basically though, it is Jared's program, and he gets 100% credit for anything that's being done there. We're trying to support it as much as we can, but like I said, it's his baby.
Let's stay with IMSA, Michael. So we've spoken a bit about IndyCar, the growth they've seen. What have you observed within IMSA, knowing that, say, next year's TV package with NBC is going to be among the best they've ever had? Boy, if we're talking about manufacturers, brother, I can't count how many manufacturers are currently involved or those who are coming in, recommitting through LMDH. GTD Pro is a new class and such. What do you see there that gives you cause to either smile, have optimism that if you can land that LMDH partner or expand your LMP3 program, that's going to be a series that's delivering as well?
100%. And it comes down to the rules. They finally got smart, and I think they did a great job working together with the FIA in Europe to come up with, a package that you'll be able to go and run Le Mans. And I think that was very important, that, we have equal rules for that. So, yeah, I think they did a great job. I think it's very cost effective for a manufacturer to come in now, where before it was, he who has the most money is going to win type thing, where now it's, it's going to be limited to what they can spend and do. And I think it's just going to make for a better series. There's going to be a lot of interest. I think they've done a great job with what they've done, and I'm very excited about the future for IMSA, and I hope I can be a part of it.
Big changes during the off season to your IndyCar program. 50% change on the driver front. Been a little while since you've won a championship, Michael. Not so long since you won Indy 500s. And we know if we're talking currency, I don't know if they're 50-50 in terms of equal, but you never scoff at winning an Indy 500. But I know, looking at the various trophies behind you, they don't let you take home the big board, Warner, but that Astor Cup sure would be pretty to put behind you. Tell me about the plans here. 2012, if I recall correctly, the last IndyCar title that you've earned. How much of these changes about? Pardon?
Too long.
Yeah, too long.
Yeah.
Tell me about the changes you've made, not only on the driver front, but are there any other structural changes you've made to go and make sure that this isn't yet another Penske or Ganassi title taken by the end of the year?
Well, I think, obviously the big thing is the drivers. I think we have three drivers capable of winning the championship. Obviously Devlin's going to be on a learning path, but the other three are definitely can be title contenders. And so that's where it starts. Within the team, I think we have a lot of continuity with our people, which is good. We brought in obviously a new boy actually he worked with Grosjean last year, and
Olivier Boisson, talented racer.
He's going to do it. I think going to bring some new creative ideas, and but other than that, there hasn't been big changes, and we didn't think like we needed to make that many big changes. I think from a competitive standpoint, I think we were pretty quick. We've had especially Colton in many. He probably could have won 8 or 9 races easily this year.
Oh, yeah.
But I think what we need to do is, as a team, if we're looking to win the championship, the only way you're going to win it is not making mistakes. And it's the little things that are going to cost you the championship. And those are the things we're trying to work on. Our pit stops the year before probably cost us a championship. This year, and an Indy 500. This last year, I think we improved that a lot. But I think we still need to continue to work on that. We just got to keep the mistakes at a minimum. You're going to make mistakes, but you got to keep them at a minimum and just make less than the other guys. So, those are the things that those little details are the ones we're really working on. Because I think overall our cars are pretty competitive. I think it's just been, just the other things that have been catching us out. We just have to get out there and not make those mistakes.
For reasons that I never wanted to, just thinking back to watching cartoons as a kid and Wile E. Coyote and that stupid Acme cartoon anvil that kept falling on him, that just became a bit of a running joke between Ryan Hunter-Reay and I. Boy, that thing certainly found Alexander Rossi more often than it should have the last couple of years. Yep. You mentioned about this 4-car team, Devlin being a rookie, no real expectations on him to deliver right away. That'd be silly, but you do have a strong 3-car challenge to pose with Colton Herta, Rossi, and Grosjean. Tell me about at least what you've been able to do so far during the offseason with Romain, Michael. I know you haven't been able to go out and test a bunch with him, but have you been able to integrate him into the team, whether it's him at the shop or through Zoom or whatever it might be? You want the influence from him to help go after and get that championship, but have you had a chance to feel any of that yet in the organization?
Not a whole lot yet. I think he's in a transition of, moving his family and things like that over here. I think he's going to move to Florida, which is cool. And I think there hasn't been a whole lot of things going on within that side of it with the drivers at this point. I think it's going to really heat up after the new year. That's when it really gets hot and heavy. So, I think that's when we're going to start to feel a lot more of that and get the influence of Romain and his experience.
Next year is going to be an interesting one for Rossi. Know that the contract that he's currently on will expire by the end of 2022. I would place him among the top potential free agents. How does someone like you, Michael, go into a season knowing that you have a high-valued asset, one that I'm assuming a Roger Penske, Chip Ganassi, Zach Brown, some others might be interested in his services? Is that something you try and lock down straight away? Is that something where you go, hey, you never know who might emerge? Not that we don't want him back, but who knows? Lewis Hamilton might say, enough with Formula One. I want to go to IndyCar. How do you approach that? Do you try and leave the door open as a good businessman, or is loyalty the thing for you? Try and get this an extension done? And has he even indicated if he wants to come back? Because that's the other half of the equation.
Yeah, I don't think he's ready. He was ready to commit yet. So, I think we're both looking at, how's this year going to go? We have to do a better job on our side for him. And, and he thinks there's things that he's got to do as well on his side. So it'll be an interesting year to see how it goes. I'm hoping that he, can turn his luck around and perform like he did the first few years with us. And, if we can get to that point, and it'll be interesting to see if he'll still be driving for us or if somebody else is going to go after him. So, we'll have to wait and see.
Got about 5 minutes or so left, Michael. So 1 or 2 more questions for you. So speaking of young talent that we love, there's this kid from Florida, Kyle Kirkwood, Indy Lights champion for you, just knocked down the world the last couple of years. I know that in a perfect world, he'd be driving a 5th Andretti Autosport Indy car, signed with Foyt for the year. I have a firm belief that when we get to 2023, I'll be walking to your tent to see the kid. But nonetheless, tell me about his talent, in that things don't always align or work out for you to keep everyone that comes up through your system. Do you still keep tabs on him? Are you trying to make sure he's one and done with Foyt to get him back and go win championships for you? How do you deal with something like that?
For sure, we're going to watch him. It's like we did with Oliver, right? I mean, I was one to get him back in our family. There wasn't room. And, I think it's great that Zach took him, which was good. I recommended him to Zach to do it. And unfortunately, I had his accident there in Indy that messed up his deal there. But I still have a lot of time for him. And I was so happy that we were able to find a spot for him here within our system, to do the Formula E, which he's very excited about, by the way. And actually today he was his first test. He's doing a pretty good job. Yeah. And the same goes for Kyle. We want him, one day to be back with us for sure. But I was very happy for him. I think Foyt did a great one by picking him up. I think he's going to really deliver for them. I think it's going to be good for them. It's going to be good for him. And, we'll see if there's going to be room for us or not in the next year or two. But, 3-4 years down the road, you never know. I mean, we're going to keep a close relationship with him because we feel like, he's a guy that you want to keep in your family. And if an opportunity is there to be able to get him back and he wants to come back, we're all about it.
Let's close on electric racing. Definitely in a unique place, Michael, where 2 of your teams are involved in all electric motorsports. Formula E, you've been there for forever. Added Extreme E, off-road electric racing, a thing you and I would have never imagined decades ago. But we know that IndyCar will be adding electrification here soon. IMSA, at least in its top prototype class, will as well. It seemingly won't be long where the majority of where you're involved will have hybridization, if not full electrification. What have you seen? What have you learned from being in that sector that's different from the normal gasoline, methanol, racing fuel, internal combustion engine racing? What's different about that folks don't know? Did this Extreme E inaugural season live up to expectations?
Oh, I think it did. I think it in some ways was beyond expectation. What did we learn? I don't know. I mean, in the end, we learned that it's still racing. It's still all the same basics of racing. It's just a different power plant. I think what we found was the interest outside of the normal racing fan that gravitates towards it, because the sustainability and things like that. I think it's been quite interesting. And with companies, they have a lot of separate budgets just for that. And so, when we go in and pitch our portfolio, it's amazing. Probably, 8 out of 10 times they want to ask more about the electric side, because that's what's going on in our society. So it's been very important for us to have that to offer our sponsors. You know, I think Avalanche is a perfect example. They love the IndyCar racing stuff, but it doesn't quite fit their message. Whereas the electric and the sustainability is right in their message of what they're trying to do with their company. So, you know, so that's, for us, it's been great in our portfolio to have, you know, that to offer, you know, and, you know, Genesis is another perfect example. They love the IndyCar, but they really feel that for their message, it's more about the sustainability again and things like that. So that's why they gravitated that way, you know, so.
Is that something you take back, Michael? Whether it's a Roger Penske or a John Doonan or whomever might be running the other racing series you're in, where partial electrification, if not full electrification, is in place. Is that a message you take back and say, hey, when I'm pitching sponsors, boy, if I tell them this is for my all electric series, everybody perks up, but some of them are shying away in your mostly internal combustion engine formula?
For sure. You know, I think that's why IndyCar is doing what they're doing, you know, and that honestly, you would not have Honda renewing if they didn't know that it was going to be some sort of electrification.
Yeah.
And so it's very important what they're doing there. You know, for the long-term future, I've been really pushing hydrogen. I think that could be another area that would make sense, especially in racing, because it keeps the sound of the engines and things like that, which I think, you know, if there's one critique of electric racing is the sound, right? And with hydrogen, you basically use the same engine, you know. So, you know, there's things like that you know, I keep pushing those type messages, you know, or whatever is new. I mean, there's some other fuels out there that are completely sustainable and things that are, you know, carbon neutral or whatever, carbon negative even. So there's a lot of cool things out there that I think, you know, I keep pushing to say, hey, you know, keep looking at this, look at that, because this could be part of the future 5, 6, 7 years down the road. And right now is the time to be thinking about that.
Let's wrap on this. Let's close here, Michael, on two names that we're rather fond of. Matthew Brabham has come talking about coming back into the family. Saw his name appear in the Chris Griffiths test recently in one of your Indy Lights cars. Also, your son, Marco. We hope to hear that he'll be going for another pole and hopefully, possibly adding a win at the Indy 500. What can you tell us to close on the Brabham name and your son, Marco, as well? I know it would be his news to break, but for Marco fans, should they at least be getting ready to buy their tickets for the 500 next year? And where does Matty fit into things for you, Michael?
Well, Matty, obviously we've always liked Matty, and he's done a great job for us in the past. And we've been trying to find ways to get him back in. And you know, he was interested in looking at Indy Lights again and maybe rejuvenate his career. And he's considering it. You know, hopefully we'll have something announced soon there. And then there's, you know, Marco. We're working really hard to work on his Indy program. You know, I know he wants to still branch out and try other things. I know he's going to probably do SRX again next year. And then I think he's looking at maybe doing some other NASCAR races and things, which I think would be good for him. And so, but yeah, our priority right now, our biggest priority is to work on funding for Marco at Indy for this year.
Michael, thanks so much for joining us here in the ePartrade.com Race Industry Week. Here in 2021, you kicked it off, brother. Awesome time spent with you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael.
The concept for ePartrade is basically, in my opinion, there's a big hole in the internet. So the internet started many years ago, but there's never been an online business community for racers on the World Wide Web. The need for ePartrade is actually quite obvious. Basically, people in the business of auto racing need a place online to hang out and get their problems solved.
It's extremely simple for a buyer or for a supplier to interact on the platform. The first thing you need to do is sign in, which is free. And the second thing is, when you see a product that you're interested in, all you need to do is click on request more information, If it's a company, you click on request more information, and then from there, it is forwarded directly to the buyer or to the supplier.
You can go to epartrade.com, you become part of a community of businesses in racing, and it makes sourcing products much easier than just on the internet or using Google.
At ePartrade, there is no e-commerce. It's literally a connection just like at a trade show. So now, any time of the year, a buyer could reach out to a supplier through an email.
More than that, it's a place to go just to keep current every day. So it's a good place to start your workday in your racing business or in your offices of your professional race team. And you know you're current when it comes to new technology, industry news, technical papers, technical videos, all of that and more. We're not looking for a million hits per day. All we want is people who are really the volume buyers of racing products in the racing industry to be part of the little world of ePartrade. We have racing businesses participating from around the world. So you get suppliers from around the world, you get buyers from around the world.
ePartrade really eliminates having to travel, closing down your shop. Now you have a place to showcase globally your racing product and technology.
There are two types of people, racers and everyone else. Racer Magazine is for those who believe that racing is a way of life. Racer embodies the excellence that defines a sport driven by passion, courage, and ingenuity. Get 1 year of both Racer's print and digital edition for only $39 with instant access to our entire digital issue archive. Subscribe now at info.racer.com.